It has been an intriguing and exciting and overall pretty darn great first month of this YouTube channel. Getting back into recording videos on the regular has definitely been a challenge, and now I think it is time for me to bring this ship back into base and do the first episode of the series where I look into what it means to run a YouTube channel. Yes, it's time for the first monthly Drydock. Hello and welcome. I am Rob Farker, a lover of sleek futures and cool machines, who is bringing his perspective and personality to YouTube to talk about life, the universe and everything, and how to do all of the above with a bit more intent. A quick note at the top of the episode: I would very much appreciate it if you could give this video a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and also pin a polite, enthusiastic and constructive comment down below. Doing so not only lets YouTube know that this channel is worth promoting and putting on people's home screens, but it also lets me know that folks out there are enjoying this content and lets me read your feedback in the name of making this channel better and more entertaining and more interesting, and I don't know, fingers crossed, maybe even life-changing for you folks. January the 1st to the 31st, 2025 has been and gone. I wanted to take the time at the moment to go over the channel analytics for exploring the digital frontier for the last month and talk a little bit about how things are going and perhaps how I'd like them to go in the future. And also the fantastic response that I've had from you folks. One thing I think worth pointing out is, as much as January is the first month in what I'm calling the 6-month mission, I was technically on YouTube for a couple of months beforehand, because at the start of November through to the end of December, I did get into the habit of posting a video a week as a way of giving this concept a trial run and to see whether I could just get in front of the camera and make sure that I had something to say. And it went pretty well. But I think one thing that is worth keeping in mind is that those 2 months probably contributed to some of the fun things that did happen during January. So as tempting as it is to look at that month in isolation, I probably laid the groundwork for it across November and December. So yes, the main point I think I want to touch on, one of the things I really want to touch on, is that my goal with this 6-month mission was to create something that's me and see how it connects with people. And the main intent was just to keep putting videos out. No matter what I had, just don't let analysis paralysis stop me from getting in front of the camera and putting something up for you folks. Ideally something short that you can watch in a brief space of time. That said, I did kind of find that shorts weren't really my bag. I do prefer videos between that 10-minute, half an hour mark. So fingers crossed I can keep this one under half an hour. It feels like I'm going to have a fair bit to talk about, so we will see how we go. I do want to give a shout out to 2 kind of online mentors of mine. They're not direct mentors. I am not engaging them in person for advice or strategizing, but I do find that their content on YouTube has been very helpful. Firstly, Abdaal, I think I have mentioned him a few times on this channel, has been YouTubing for several years, has gone from talking about helping people get into medical school to helping people excel on YouTube, and I feel like I've got a lot of pointers from him. And also someone whom I get that in the trenches feel with, a lady by the name of Kate Cassidy, who is also very much posting about living life as intentionally as possible, though not with the video game and science fiction focus that I have, but still she is fun to watch. She has been posting monthly retrospectives and looks at her analytics as she goes, and she is good fun to watch, has a lot of interesting stuff to say about living life in general and sometimes how technology is kind of manipulating us and what we can do about that. So please make sure to give her a subscribe, go check her out. I'll put a link down below in the comments. On the subject of Kate Cassidy, one of the things that she said she wanted to do was do 3 episodes a week. I did like the idea of that because I kind of like Kate's pace, but I started feeling that that would be a bit overkill for me personally, so I've had a semi-official goal of 2 new videos per week, and I think I've been doing a pretty good job of keeping up with that. Anyway, how about we start talking about the analytics some? Here are the channel analytics for Exploring the Digital Frontier, Rob Farquhar. I don't know if that name is a bit too long, perhaps I ought to just narrow it down to Rob Farquhar, but it will do for now until I can think of something a little bit more shorter and more snappy. Suggestions welcome, and yeah, if you want to put something down in the comments, please do. But yes, as you can see, so these are the statistics for the 1st to the 31st of January. And things were pretty quiet, let's face it, at the beginning of the month. As you can see, I was doing a pretty decent job of putting a video up every few days, and things started to kick off. One of the things Kate Cassidy talks about is not worrying too much about finding a niche, just talking about the things that she loves talking about. I think I kind of found my niche a little bit earlier on. I have been talking a bit in prior Drydocks about my interest in online video games like Elite Dangerous and Star Citizen. And when I put a post up about playing Elite Dangerous with intent, well, things started to pick up. I got lots and lots of new viewers, and as you can see down here, this seems to be the one that is growing my audience, people watching this video and then coming back. If we have a look at that video specifically, as again, if you've been sticking around with me a lot, I did kind of a live stream to say thank you very much for cracking 1,000 views on that video. It was absolutely, I don't want to use the word shocking, but it was a very pleasant surprise just watching the figures go up. And if I click on that video, as of today, and I record this is the 2nd of February, it is almost 2,300 views. I mean, holy crap, thank you very much, folks. 181 likes, 10 people didn't like it, fair enough. Thank you for at least letting YouTube know that it wasn't your bag. I have disliked some videos myself in the time, but 181 people did, and I got 80 comments on it, so thank you very much for the feedback. That was fantastic. Let's have a look at the analytics for that one. Yep, 2,000, rounded up, 2,300 views. Average watch time was total watch time was 159.1 hours. And yes, 6 days in, Thursday, let's see, when did we crack 1,000? Here we go. On Tuesday the 21st of January, I uploaded it on Thursday the 16th. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, 5 days in, I cracked, where are we? Can we get a bit more granular? It's a bit hard to. I cracked 1,000 viewers, which was incredible. And when did we hit the 2,000? As you can see, things were plateauing off. So yeah, Friday the 24th of January, so 8 days after I put it out. So it seems as though my niche is basically Elite Dangerous fans, and the comments that I got on this one were fantastic. And I do particularly, it's put it straight up the top of the list, I do have to give a shout out to Commander Burr, let me see if I can zoom in a little bit, of the Burr Pit, who is one of the big Elite Dangerous content creators, as you can see here. Has over 36,000 subscribers himself, and has lots and lots of Elite Dangerous and some other science fiction gaming related content. So it was wonderful to get a shout out from him, and yeah, I hope, being a little bit greedy, I do hope that it did attract a few people's attention toward this channel. So that was absolutely fantastic. I was also glad to get a shout out from a podcast called Lave Radio, which I believe is one of the bigger shows out there in the Elite Dangerous content sector. So on the 21st of January, Exploring the Digital Frontier and the post about doing YouTube with intent got a quick shout out. So thank you very much to the Lave Radio guys for directing a bit more, guys and girls I should say, all you wonderful folks who create and produce the show. I did wind up listening to the entire thing, and some of the comments you guys made about exploration gameplay were absolutely hilarious. Thank you very much for pointing a few more eyeballs and ear holes my way. So, yes, it does seem very much like Elite Dangerous is going to be my thing going forward. Another thing I did want to talk about was my experience with actually putting these videos together and putting them up. One of the things I did note was the time required to edit, and I know that Ali Abdaal talks a lot about outsourcing editing as soon as you can, and I'm maybe starting to get to that point where I think it's looking more and more like a good idea. I just need to look at how much that is going to cost, given that there are some other things I do want to do with my fun money. And doing 2 episodes a week, I don't know, I have the sneaking suspicion I am going to have to shoulder the editing load for a little bit. But the process of adding images to these videos was very much an educational one. I did like being able to do it, and especially when I did let me back up a little bit. As well as these videos, I've also been doing podcast content with the Equal First podcast. It's up to 6 episodes so far. It was the project before I decided to embark on the 6-month mission and give YouTubing a go. And I've got the content. I kind of kept the recordings up my sleeve a little bit to put up if I felt like I was running low and I just needed something to put in. That said, I did take video for these. I did them in Riverside, and editing the video and switching between shots is a pretty much full-on job. I think when I did this most recent one for Naomi Rose, it took me about 3 hours all up to basically create this 1.25 hour episode for YouTube and for podcasting more broadly. I've got 2 more episodes in the can, and I think I'm going to leave them maybe for a once-a-month thing. I do like the idea of doing a few more interviews as a way of connecting with people and, of course, getting a few more eyeballs onto my channel, but it's definitely going to be more of a fewer and far between thing, I reckon, just because of the work involved in putting a single episode together. But I'm starting to think, after the chat I had with Tavares of the Elite Dangerous Australia and New Zealand group, a fun networking thing to do would be to reach out to people like Burr and Ricardo and a couple of other folks whom YouTube has put onto my home screen as recommendations, recommending them as YouTube content creators. That would be a fun thing to do, just to diversify things a little bit. But another thing that I encountered when creating a couple of these episodes was that I would try and record in Streamlabs, which is the software I use when I go live. And I did have some fun experiments with that. I tried streaming on YouTube again recently, which was fun to do, and it had a pretty good result. YouTube did again push me going live onto people's home screens and give alerts out to those who would subscribe. The only issue I found is that the YouTube app kept reporting bitrate issues, and even when I set Streamlabs to output in the bitrate it required, it still threw errors. I've got a 140 connection. I'm pretty sure it operates fairly well, so I'm not sure what's going on there, and I don't seem to get the same errors off of Streamlabs when I am live streaming to Twitch. So it's tempting to mainly focus on Twitch. That said, some of the statistics on the audience, where are we? Let me bring those back up again. Here we go, community. analytics, audience. So yeah, if that's one thing that I found out about you folks, is that you do seem to be pretty much on the masculine side of the gender spectrum. I have had a couple of feminine folks say how come that we didn't pop up as a statistic there. Maybe it's just their YouTube settings. I know that being a woman on the internet is it's not the most optimal experience, let's face it. So if it's just a situation that you've not set your gender profile in YouTube, completely understandable. But it does look like you folks are in the main in my age bracket, being in the, myself, I'm in the late 40s, so it's not a surprise to see a fair few folks also in their late 40s being here. I did try out putting my content from either Streamlabs or Twitch into Riverside, and I noticed the couple of times that I did, I would get desync issues. I would notice as I started editing and the video got further and further down from the start point, the audio would be running a second and sometimes even 2 seconds ahead of the video. So somehow the video was getting slowed down as Riverside imported it. So at one point I took a Twitch output and I imported it into Microsoft Windows inbuilt tool for doing video editing, which is called Clipchamp, and that seemed to handle things fine. The only downside with Clipchamp is that unless you are paying for a subscription to it, it does not save anything. You can do an edit and you can output in 1080p, great, but if you have to shut your PC down or close the app down in the meantime, you then have to start from scratch when you open it up again, which is a frustrating thing, but at least it allows me to do some edits which I can then export and then import back into Riverside for a little bit more cleanup and doing things like dropping graphics and text in. And also, because Riverside's AI function, I find does help out a fair bit in terms of coming up with chapter headings. That does save me, I find, a little bit of work unless I'm doing a very short video, like say that one for, the one where I told people where to find the Thrustmaster control panel in Windows 11, and also the experience of discovering the audio setting which tells Elite Dangerous to from which source to take the 3 characters that it uses when reading out your call sign when you're approaching a station and initiating docking. That one I just did pretty much in the YouTube by playing the video back and noting where the timestamps were, or noting where the times were where I started talking about specific things, and just type them in manually. Admittedly, with my current Riverside subscription, I still have to type things into YouTube manually because it won't let me copy the chapter headings out and paste them in. I have to pay a little bit more for a pro subscription to that, and that hasn't just felt like it's worth my money yet. We will see. Maybe if another month will change my mind on that front. So yeah, there was some definitely some interesting technical lessons to learn during this month-long process. I am also still learning the art of thumbnails, although Canva is being a great help and I'm feeling like I'm getting that a bit better. I am getting pretty good at taking a headshot of myself, which I will probably do for this video, putting it into an application called GIMP and using its lasso tool to manually trace myself out of the background and then save that as a PNG that I can drop in. I know that Canva also does have a remove background function. Again, it requires a paid subscription, which I don't have yet. I will make up my mind as to whether or not I do want to proceed with that, and that's something that I think I'm more keen on rather than upping my Riverside subscription to Pro, because that just feels like that's going to be the more worthwhile tool for me at the moment. Another thing that I do want to work on is batching. I've not been great at that, I've found, at the past month, and by that I mean recording footage for episodes all in one big recording session that I can then edit later. I feel like I'm kind of working out my topics as I go at the moment, and maybe that's kind of appropriate for where I am. And as much as batching is definitely a good thing, I used to do it all the time with the Pay to Play podcast and Podcast Bay the podcast, I'm still wrapping my head around the topics that I want to talk about and making proper lists from them. And that's another thing that I feel like I need to work on, centralizing more my content pipeline from idea to fleshing it out to title, thumbnail and hook, and then having a 3-point bullet point summary of the things that I want to talk about, because as fun as it is to read off a script, and that I've done pretty well with that in the past, I do prefer now working from thumbnails, because I hate using that hackneyed phrase raw and real. Everybody tusses it up. I'm going to be raw and real, and kind of, sometimes gets used for an excuse to be needlessly mean. But anyway, there is something about the more off-the-cuff nature of doing these things more from bullet points that does seem to work. But I do need to work a bit more on making sure that I do have kind of manageable list of like, okay, I've had a thought bubble, what do I need to do to turn it into a workable idea that I can talk with, and where are all my other thought bubbles, which are the ones I want to pick from to talk about so that I can do some batch recordings and come back and then edit later. So yeah, that's definitely a to-do. But yeah, that is month 1, and I kind of want to talk about now, what are my goals for month 2, now that I have had that learning experience of blowing up and identifying what people are coming back for. Because, let me put my glasses back on, it is worth pointing out back in the analytics again, if we look at content, the videos that folks have come back for, if we look at total views, the ones that you folks do seem to be coming back with pretty much is my Elite Dangerous content. It's the ones where, those are the ones where I get the most views and definitely the most comments on. So that seems to be something, that seems to be my niche, and I am enjoying, quite frankly, producing content around about Elite Dangerous for you folks and what I'm learning. One thing I do want to do, I want to keep up with 2 episodes per week. There is a bit of me that is thinking that the next challenge is to focus a little bit more on that angle of playing with intent and defining what my specific intent for Elite Dangerous is. I've been doing pretty good on that front. I've been using spreadsheets to track my income, but yeah, I want to talk a bit more about that balance between playing the game for fun and playing the game as a way of serving other people, like the people in the Elite Dangerous Australia and New Zealand Squadron. And also, some of the feedback that I've gotten is that there is a general idea that, people like me explaining how the game and how it works, and there is one particular person, let me see if I can find them in the community section. One of the things I did like is, putting a nice binary on kind of dramatic situation of wiping 8 years of progress in Elite Dangerous. That did get a few views, and I loved the yeses and nos on that front. It was good to see. And let me see, there is a fellow, so a YouTuber, well not a YouTube member by the name of Kurtander. I don't believe Kurtander has put any videos up. And Spike 553, who also came in and agreed with what he was saying. I like the idea of explaining things and demystifying things. And one of the things that Kurtander said was that he is having a problem just getting into the game, that he's not sure exactly what to do, and that the game, in all fairness, does throw a new player in at the deep end, although I do think it has a bit more of a tutorial and an initial mission structure nowadays that gives you a bit better of an idea. That is one thing that wiping my profile helped me with, just being able to go through those new steps that new players have to go through. So I'd be curious to see if Kurtander gives those a go. But yes, if I can create some comment which maybe answers Kurtander's questions about how to navigate the menus, which missions to start with and which to avoid, how to navigate the mission, prep beforehand, all that kind of thing, which would be interesting to do. I think one way or another a bit of research is not going to be a bad idea here. Look at how other people have tried to give advice for Elite Dangerous for newbies, and where I feel like the things that what I think they might be missing is, and perhaps addressing those points, and maybe even having a bit more of a direct dialogue with Kurtander and seeing where things go. Who knows, we might even do some sort of joint live stream and see how that happens. See if I can get his audio in on the recording. We have that discussion and then that goes up live. So, that's a thought. Kurtander, if you're interested, reach out again. I'm not sure how you can direct message on YouTube, but anyway, we'll see what we can sort out. I did also have the idea, as I mentioned, I do want to kind of use Elite Dangerous as a bit of a learning experience, and I had this idea of playing Elite Dangerous and trying to apply the points in this book, The Personal MBA by Josh Kaufman. And the fun bit about the Personal MBA is that if I open it up, let me see what we'll learn in this book. For example, where Josh talks about, I'll just do the Kilroy was here a bit and look over the edge of the page. The 5 parts of every business, you might notice up here that there is a link to an article on the web, because basically the Personal MBA started as a whole series of blog posts. And this idea of looking at those blog posts and going, okay, let's read through these and saying, how do they apply to running a venture in Elite Dangerous? I'm not sure how well it will go, but there's a bit that says, stuff it, let's try it and see what happens. And I do want to, I don't know if I've mentioned it already, I apologise. The idea of doing 2 episodes a week, I want to do one of them as an Elite Dangerous video. And again, nudge the microphone, again, perhaps inspired by Kate Cassidy, talk a bit more about the rest of life. As much as good, pardon me getting tongue-tied, as good as it is talking about the lessons that you can learn about life from playing Elite Dangerous, well, what about the things that I am doing when I'm not playing? What do I want to do in terms of organising my life, making sure I am taking care of the basics, where I'm living, the job I am doing, looking after my dog, and the connections that I am forming with other people. Asking myself, and that broader question is, what do I mean about living life with intent? What does intentional living, as some folks say, mean? What do I intend to get out of life? How do I intend to show up for not just other people, but also for myself? How am I going to make sure that I am keeping in my own corner, that as much as I might have other people being my cheerleaders, how am I making sure that I am doing that as well? And I think that there is a space for that as well, outside of just being a lover of sleek futures and cool machines and playing video games online, which I will admit has been pretty fun so far. So yeah, it looks like it's going to be, those are going to be my main challenges. Oh, there was one other thing that I wanted to talk about. I did enjoy my experiments with live streaming. As I discussed a little bit earlier on, Twitch feels like the more drama-free way of doing it, but I did take a look at this breakdown of when my viewers are on YouTube, and I did notice there seems to be this kind of window. If I wanted to do live streaming, I've noticed that of an evening, I tend to get a few more people on Twitch. I do have a few folks, particularly, who are part of the Australian audience who subscribe there, with whom I would like to build a consistent audience with. Oh, that's an interesting thing, device time. So a lot of you folks are watching on computer. Mobile phone, of course, takes up a good chunk. Some of you are watching on your TVs. Which is kind of where I watch a lot of YouTube, I will admit. I watch it through my Xbox, which comes through my living room TV, and there are a few of you who are on tablets. Most of you folks have been watching from the United States, and a fair chunk of you from the United Kingdom, whereas a few of you are Australian, and there are, funnily enough, Canadians, not surprised. I have a few hardcore Canadian mates there, saying big thank you to Scott Doucette and also to Jesse Chambers, who is a YouTube streamer. You will find him under Rage Affects. That's with affects starting with an A. I'm pretty sure I've got that right. So yeah, it's been nice having you guys turn up, but yeah, it's good to know that a lot of you folks are in the States, which kind of makes these viewership demographics not surprising, that most of you are basically turning up and watching me in what marries up with my early pre-work, in some cases mornings. So I had this idea of maybe streaming on YouTube if I am going to stream, do a couple of morning streams, maybe twice a week. Start off maybe, say, 6, 7 o'clock my time, go for an hour or two. Thankfully, working from home allows me to do this. I don't have to worry about my commute, but stream for a couple of hours and then go offline and do my day job, and then maybe pick a day or two of an evening where I can stream on Twitch for my Australian audience. So that feels like the experiment. And of course, another thing I'm going to have to be mindful of is I think I need to keep it to one stream on each per week, because I do need to make sure I am leaving time to do all the editing work that I need to be doing. So yeah, winding this up, I would like to know from you folks, how did your Januaries go? Both perhaps as YouTube consumers, perhaps as creators, and more broadly, if you are a new streamer. Let me take these off and put them down, because otherwise I tend to fiddle with them a little bit when I've got them in my hands. If you are a new streamer as well, a baby YouTuber, how are you finding things are going in terms of putting your videos out there, in terms of the audiences that you have found and that you are engaging with? And what are your plans for the coming month? How has your review of your January been? Anyway, if you would like to see a little bit more, I would like to point you to at least one playlist, which is my broader Drydock playlist. My broader Drydock playlist. So I will try and work out where to put things. Maybe up here a little bit. I will put a link to that, and also my most recent Drydock episode. Give that a look as well, just the last one that I did, so you can see what my intents were before I started this in earnest. But until the next video or live stream, I'd just like to say have a good time in the meantime. This is Commander Rob Farker giving a big 07 and signing off.